And so when we are able to release from the idea that we can't be who we say we are free. We are healing ourselves. We are reframing what it means to be selfish because I will be myself. Right? Be myself is part of being selfish, and I will continue to bring myself to the center of anything I do.
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. What comes to mind when you hear the word selfish? For many of us, it feels negative. We've been taught that a good leader sacrifices, gives endlessly, and proves their value through busyness. Yet, when you're always last on your own list, the cost is your health, your energy, and your ability to grow the business you're working so hard to build. That's why today's conversation is so important. I'm joined by Dawn Christian, a leadership advisor, coach, and founder of BeLeadership, who brings over 25 years of experience from leading billion-dollar product launches to coaching leaders and entrepreneurs today. Dawn has lived the consequences of neglecting herself, and now she's on a mission to redefine what it means to be led by centering your humanity, your values, and your well-being. In this episode, you'll learn what it truly means to be a quote-unquote selfish leader, how to recognize when you're neglecting yourself, and the practical tools that can help you protect your energy, set boundaries, and create space for your business to thrive. Let's get into it. Dawn, welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. Good to have you here. So welcome to the show. I'm excited.
Hey, Monique, it's good to be here. I am so excited to be here. It's an honor.
Yes. I am thrilled to talk about today's conversation because I feel like you're the right person. And we're going to talk about what people don't usually talk about, and that is being the selfish leader, how prioritizing you can help your business grow. And before we get all into the things, I would love it if you could share a little bit about your background. What's it that you do in your business and your journey to here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Dawn Christian, CEO and founder of BeLeadership. We are the leadership advisory and consultancy firm that it meets you at the intersections of leadership, organizational effectiveness, and mental health and wellness in the workplace. I built this space out of 25 years of being in corporate spaces that were never built for me. Listen, y'all, corporate spaces aren't built for the individual, they are built for the product or service. So let's just brass tacks on that. And when we think about who has been leading corporate spaces year over year as a standard, that prototype, that archetype does not often include identities that expound beyond a white male centered ideology. That's because that's what this country was founded upon. That is because when we industrialized, that is who was running the industry, and that still prevails today. That is the foundation of where we have come from. Now, lots has gone on, lot has changed, but when we were trained, wherever it was that you were trained, to be a thing, we were trained to do those things based off of that same white male prototype, right? That's just what it is. That is what colonization is built out of. That is what capitalism has mainly been built out of in our world. Now, that is not to villainize that prototype. It is just to say, I am nor white male. I'm not that. And I was in a space that was not built for something that looked like me. And where I came to do this work was about a introspective journey, a discovery of what does it mean if I'm going to continue on this pathway. I've spent a quarter of a century doing this. So if I'm going to continue on this pathway, what does it then mean for me? And so there's a shared
Mm-hmm.
accountability when we show up in spaces as leaders, right? A shared accountability. There's the space and whether or not it was built for you, but there is also your discernment and ultimately your choice to interact with it. And that's where the Venn diagram happens. And so the work that we do is in that exploration via our proprietary framework, ethos driven leadership, ethos being where your character and your values intersect. When we know what those things are, we are better suited to understand what we are putting into play when we choose to lead in these spaces.
Mm-hmm.
It is a choice. And I want to give you all the gift of saying that it is a choice because that is part of the healing. That is why mental health and wellness is at the center of what we do in leadership development. When you are a leader and you know that you have discernment, you are being a healthy leader and thus creating more organizational effectiveness and healthier spaces to work in.
Mm. Ooh, that is a powerful intro. All the things we need. And so thank you so much for sharing your journey. And just like, I feel like people are going to get so much from this conversation because it's something that we oftentimes don't talk about in business is putting ourselves first.
Mhm.
And I want to start there. Dawn, how do we first understand? So for you, what does it mean to be a selfish leader? And why do you think that this is so important for business owners?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to learn along the way, Monique, that I'm a bit of a storyteller. I like to say a truth teller. And so what's
Mm-hmm.
happened for me, I like to say what's happened for me instead of to me. But what's happened for me
Mm-hmm.
is that along that 25-year corporate journey, I was leading global launches, launching billion
Mm-hmm.
dollar products. I successfully have launched five, one, two, three, four, $5 billion products as a corporate leader. And I was so entrenched in the commitment to getting the product and making sure that we were meeting our commercialization goals and doing all the things that while I was pregnant and it was a geriatric pregnancy, I was 38, if not 39 years old, 7.5 months pregnant, and working from home because of the complications I was experiencing. I started having trouble breathing, but I was also diligently working on this presentation for one of my global markets. And I texted my boss to tell him, hey, something's not right. I think I need to head to the doctor as things started to get a little bit tougher for me and ultimately became an emergency. And I said, hey, I got to go. I got to get to the emergency room. And he texted me back and said, well, can you send the slides before you go? That was the text.
Mm-mm-mm. Lord.
Not, are you okay? Do you need anything? How can we help? And
Right.
here's the thing, y'all. My career is rooted in biotech and healthcare. I was in the business of
Mm.
saving lives. I was launching an oncology product to save someone else's life, yet I was risking my own. And
Mm.
here's where discernment comes in, and I'm going to hold every leader accountable, including myself. I sent those daggone slides. And then I got up and went to the hospital.
Mm.
That is how entrenched we are into thinking that that is more important. That comes first. And here's the thing, y'all. I was not willing to risk the most important thing I'd ever done, which is create and have my son, who is healthy and he is here and he is fine. But that does not negate the fact, it is not lost on me that for an instant, I lost my daggone mind,
Mm.
typed some stuff, uploaded a PowerPoint before getting myself to the emergency room. And that is how
Mm.
critical it is to put yourself first. Because if you train yourself to put yourself second, when life calls you to account, when it is time to make that life or death decision for not only one but two people, one that has no choice, you need to know that it is
Mm.
ultimately important for you to be first, that there is no other choice, and there needs to be no question about it, which is what led me to develop the Ethos Driven Leadership framework because I needed to know, I need the world to know as a leader what
Mm-hmm.
I value, and that is myself and my health and the health and wealth of my child and my family.
Mm-hmm.
That bit of trauma didn't just affect me, it affected my partner, it affected my husband, it affected, how I show up even today, 8 years later. And so when we
Yeah.
understand who we are and whose we are and have those things in alignment, we make better decisions and we make healthier decisions. And I also set a culture standard. If she's unwilling to go out 7 months pregnant, can't breathe, then me as a subordinate, what am I supposed to do when I don't feel well? When something happens to somebody I'm caregiving for, when I need to make a choice for me, because I've already set that precedent.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I could do from there is to pivot to something better.
Mm. Wow, that is so powerful. And, thank you so much for sharing that story. I know that was, it brings it up is a lot as well, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And Dawn, when you were saying that, I can just see how we as Black entrepreneurs can often, like, we can relate
Mm-hmm.
because we're not taught to be selfish. And I want to talk about that. And us as Black people, like, how does society, especially for Black entrepreneurs, teaches us that being selfish is wrong? And how does that belief many leaders to overextend extend themselves in their roles?
Mm-hmm. I think there's so many layers to that, and I'm going to peel some of the onion on that. Number one, we as
Mm-hmm.
Black people in this organization come with a rooted history that believed that we were not even human. So it's hard to
Mm-hmm.
humanize what work is when you were brought over to produce work, wealth, product, service at no fee, right? So you have no value in the eyes of the system, right? No value in the eyes of the system. You can create no wealth, and you are not even recognized as a human. You are chattel. You are
Mm-hmm.
as good as a horse or uh, a cattle or whatever else. That is what you are. And I'm not saying those animals are not living beings and they don't have value. They do, right? Which is why we have animal rights activists and the such. The thing is that we were not animals. We were people that were treated like animals for
Mm-hmm.
centuries, right? And then when things changed, when we were able to become only one portion of our identities, which was male, were identified as 3/5 a man, you're somewhat like a man,
Mm-hmm.
but not a complete man. And your women, eh, right? That's not even, they're just here to produce more of free labor for us.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just be clear about that. That is rooted in our blood. That is where we come from, a large part of us. Now, some of us do not have direct lineage to slavery in this country, but by way of the diaspora or the Middle Passage, a lot of us can connect to this, right? If you're not from here, I don't care if it's Africa itself. There was slavery there. There was slavery along the way, all the little islands across the way, Brazil and everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And so that behavior, that legacy lives on regardless of our connection with that. So with that, even if we're not fully conscious of that, is behaviors that we've taught ourselves, right? Of what our value is. And so we continue to, as we moved on in society and went from 3/5 a man to now a full man, only then half of our existence is still recognized as human and it's still oppressed. So when we get the inkling of success, freedom, oh, we're lucky to have it. A job that actually pays us, oh, what a blessing. We've been told, so many of us. I am 47 years old, 47.5 years old. My father is 84 years old. My mother would have been 84 herself. from the segregated South. I've been told several times, you're blessed to have had that job, that good job.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on to that good job, that piece of what you have. And it does, and when we have a lens like that, it limits us to, it's just what's right in front of us. These blinders are on. I can't see what else might be possible for me. And so we get entrenched in
Mm-hmm.
this idea that this is where I belong. This is what I need to cleave to, and hoping and building and having a vision is not for me. And we need to release from that. Along with those behaviors becomes, if I'm in this and the rest of society sees me as a workhorse, and let's be clear, even a unicorn is still a workhorse. They just producing wishes and dreams. They still working. Even a unicorn is a workhorse. We have
Yeah.
this thing that, oh, I need to be productive. Oh, I need to be booked and busy, which I'm a TEDx speaker, and my talk is on breaking up with busyness. We start to stack on ourselves the value of producing and doing as the value, as the virtue, instead of what you believe, instead of what you bring in addition, which our ideas are, how you strategize, what it means to have you uniquely in the room, just output. And that's not our truth. Your purpose is not your productivity. Let's say that again.
Mm.
Your purpose is not your productivity. Your purpose
Write
is
that one
what
down.
motivates you. What holds you true? My purpose is that little boy that I carried and now gets to grow up as a little young man into something that's going to contribute to the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's my purpose. I was being productive on the job, wasn't in my purpose. I don't care where we show up if you don't know what holds you. If you don't know why it is that you show up uniquely, that will always be a distraction, that being busy, that being productive is the purpose, and it's not. Nobody writes on their epitaph, nobody writes on their headstone, I was really busy, I had a stacked calendar.
Mm.
That is not what they write. And if they do, maybe that is motivation for someone, but if it is, then you're showing up fully understanding that, and that will be what drives you. But what holds you?
Mm.
And here's the other thing, y'all, as we heal, because we are an organization that converges on leadership and healing spaces, is that knowing that you can live in your purpose is healing. Knowing that you can lead through your purpose is leadership. We need to redefine these things for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is so good. And I love that you speak about, I mean, so many things. We just got to take a pause for that. Just taking us through all the things that we've been through. And I think like it's so important to acknowledge that, because sometimes we don't. And sometimes we're just like, keep on going. And it's the history of it and how it all leads up into how we act today. And I love that you also talk about the redefining. So, Dawn, how do you feel like once you've redefined selfish as a leader and self prioritization, how does this then unlock those growth opportunities in your business and your ability to lead?
Mm-hmm. Let's do, in this reframing work, let's talk about what it means to be selfish, right? That means you know your,
Mm-hmm.
so many of us know our
Yeah.
representative, we don't know ourselves. So selfish means introspecting. Selfish means you know
Mm-hmm.
who you are and you know whose you are. Now, I don't know what anyone's beliefs are. I don't know, what, connects beyond your being as a human, but connect to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The deep thinking space to really explore, all right, I'm Monique. I have a podcast. I could be talking about anything. Why am I talking about this? Oh, I know my why.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Now I can really dig through and talk and think about who's going to be on this show, because I don't want just anyone on this show. I need people that are going to connect to my purpose, my intention for creating this. So then that then starts to
Mm-hmm.
build out the framework for, how you produce your show, who's booked on your show, the type of questions you have, the audience that you intend to reach, what are your outlets, what are your channels. Y'all thought I wasn't talking about business, but are we talking about business? Are we looking at our viewers and seeing who's interacting? Are we looking at who's actually subscribing to our podcast, and is it in alignment? Am I getting the endorsements that I need? Are people actively talking about this platform in the intentional way that in which I want them to? Are they coming and receiving what they are, and are they coming once or twice? Now, I just kind of played with a strategic framework on this, starting with the purpose
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in a place, but that is how that works, right? So we need to get away from the idea that our representative needs to be the one that's out there. Authenticity is part of selfishness. But you can't be authentic if you've always been fronting. We've been told,
Mm.
fake it till you make it. Why? How come? Who told you that? You
Mm.
want fake money? You want fake customers? You want fake buyers? Well, then let's get real about who we are so we can know what we know. One thing
Mm-hmm.
we know about people that were inspired, that have led us for many years, regardless of how you feel about them, Oprah. We know she liked books,
Mm-hmm.
she liked traveling with Gail, she liked
Yep.
bread. She said that on a whole commercial. She liked bread. And Michelle and her gonna kick it every once in a while and talk about what it means to be a woman in this day and age. Though we act like we know Oprah, like we say her name like that's the homie,
Mm-hmm.
because she is that
Mm-hmm.
authentic. But her authenticity built a billion
Yeah.
dollar business. Who she was
Mm-hmm.
built $1 billion business. Let's be clear, right? And so when we are able to release from the idea that we can't be who we say we are free, we are healing ourselves, we are reframing what it means to be selfish, because I will be myself, right? Be
Mm-hmm.
myself is part of being selfish, and I will continue to bring myself to the center of anything I do. I only trust who I think I can see. If I can't if see you, if I don't know what you believe, which is part of our framework, right? It is our purpose, our needs, our beliefs. And some beliefs we have no business believing. We got to release some of them. And what influences
Mm-hmm.
us. When I think I know that about a person, I didn't just show up on this podcast. I looked up Black to Business and who was following it in the comments that were in there, and who's Monique, and what were the past guests, and what would be before I show up anywhere. I look at online.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how much money is or isn't on the table. I look at
Mm-hmm.
the alignment of my purpose, their purpose. Doesn't mean it's exactly the same, but is it aligned? That's selfishness. And then the other piece of selfishness is deep thinking, time and space. Do you meditate? Do you have a kitchen table? For those of y'all that have read Michelle Obama's book and been through her journal, do you understand who your squad is and who they aren't?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have someone that actually, as a leader, and we have to look at this on multiple levels, especially as leaders in our demographic. I'm speaking specifically to those that identify as women leaders and Black leaders, and the intersectionality of both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that ideology of, can I be seen, not knowing, needing support, and asking questions. And if you don't have spaces where you can go and do those things, you need a coach. You might need a therapist. And you need groups of people. And it might be a very small group of people that can hold mirrors up to you and say, well, when you said that this was your purpose to inspire other Black business entrepreneurs, you're off course. You're now talking about middle managers. We were talking about entrepreneurs. You got off course. Monique, get back on task. You need some of those folks that will say that to you so that they can hold you to your ethos. And we need to be okay with the fact that we need people, because your other earlier question around holding so much, when we have held people for so long, we've held our history, our legacy, making it, being the one to make it, the first one, we forget that being that first one or being that next great one, it has to be about you. It has to be driven by you for it to really work. And you don't have to hold everyone. You do have to hold yourself. It is the only person that you actually have to hold. And some of us that are caregivers and parents will say, what about my babies? Listen, adoption exists for a reason. And I'm not saying that to say that you can just offhand everybody, but there are, even in that, there was a moment in which you made the decision to hold someone else. And eventually they too will have a will, and you will have to allow them to hold themselves. So selfishness is about knowing what is yours to hold and what is yours to let go. But going deep on who you are and where you are today, and having the systems around you, therapy, coaching, and trusted people to hold you in your completeness and keep that mirror up in front of you and that motivation behind you and say, girl, no, you got it. No, you got it. You got it.
Yeah. I mean, we are so lucky here at Black to Business. We get to speak. Like, I just felt like you were speaking to me. And I know those who are listening, I'm like, Dawn is talking to me. And I appreciate you. I appreciate that. And so, Dawn, how do we know when, or what are those signs that we might be neglecting ourselves as leaders?
You're tired. You're just plain tired. Right? And tired comes up in ways of frustration. You're mad. You don't know why. You've never taken a break. You're going on lunch. You're picking up lunch, but you're not eating lunch. And you're sitting in front of a wilted salad, and you're sitting here saying you ate lunch, but then it becomes your wilted dinner. That behavior, that's part of it, right? And then the other piece of it is that you haven't allowed yourself the time to really assess what is and isn't working. And it is okay. I'm saying this to every Black person on this podcast that is listening. It is okay to fail. The most successful people have failed. Not once, not twice. I'm going to be very honest with you. Elon Musk done failed a whole lot, and he is goo gobs rich. He done failed a whole lot. Okay? All right. And his bank account says something different. Now, I ain't getting into all the other things about him, but let's just say that the risk that you're willing to take to try, that one time that you try and succeed, is your pathway. Right? You got to trust that you can. And leaders, when we decide that who we are is leading, not the tasks that we do, but who we are is leading, that's the differentiator. Right? Because again, and I use examples, big examples that we all can kind of relate and see, but when Barack Obama came into consideration, right, for the presidency, he was a young guy from the south side of Chicago, right? From the south side of Chicago. Nobody believed that he was going to be able to fundraise with $5 donations. No one. And let me be very clear, I lived in Chicago during that time and did just fine. Right? And no one believed that this young couple with these young girls could do what they've done as a first family.
Yeah.
But you've got to see it, right? His campaign was hope, right? We heard
That's
Keep Hope
good.
Alive before. We've heard that before. He picked it up and he ran with it in his authentic way of being a community organizer. And he didn't just tell us and show us once, but twice. And still,
Mm-hmm.
currently, is influencing what leadership looks like for not just Black folks, but for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
We've been told a different story than our truth. And when we can figure out that we are writing our story, history has happened. You are author now writing a book that somebody will look back on. And let me ask you this, leaders. Do you want them to read that we faked it till we made it, or that we were what we said we were?
Mm-hmm.
What would you want your legacy to be? I fooled people, or I was what I was meant to be? That's the choice. I mean, Maya Angelou has this really interesting thing. There's this quote, this video of her talking about bringing the ancestors along with you, right? She says, there's this thing that you'll have
Mm-hmm.
about yourself that when you walk in the room, you'll just have a sense of yourself. And they'll look at you as if you've been paid for. I sat with that sentence for a minute and I was like, well, what was she? Because that felt like that hit me in my soul. Paid for. Wait a minute, we's free, right? And and
Mm-hmm.
I looked at her inauguration speech that she did for President Bill Clinton, and you look back in that, and she talks about being paid for, but she talks about the roots of legacies of different demographics, including natives, that have gone, and their
Mm-hmm.
soil and their ancestry and their spirits are with us in the river, in the water, in the trees, such that they have paved and carved a way through the canyons of the earth that we walk on the US that we walk on, in a way in which we have been paid for, meaning your debt is paid. You are no longer a slave. You are free to choose where you show up and lead. And it is okay for you to show up and be a human, not three fifths, not portraying somebody else, but you are a whole human,
Mm-hmm.
which means that as a whole human, you require rest. You deserve rest. It is not a reward, it is part of what happens. And a rested leader is a leader with perspective. That is the key for us, is to stop doing so much and start being. Stop doing and start being. That's selfish leadership. That's where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So powerful. I mean, I love that you also talk about this idea of, I think when you have this being, and then there's the building that of values that are aligned with all the things. So I also like that you talk about ethos driven leadership. Can you explain what that means, and also why it particularly matters for Black business owners who might be navigating these spaces where they don't feel like they fit?
Yeah. Listen, we've all vied to be in spaces we had no business trying to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens not because that was our intention. It happens because societally we have learned that you work hard, play hard, right? We have learned that certain levels of jobs, certain types of jobs are the type of job, right? So we're cultured into these things. We are told that we need to have a certain earning potential, that we need to have an physically have certain things, houses, cars, other things. We're not called into this space and told, take care of you and the rest will come into
Mm-hmm.
place. Every once in a while, you might get somebody that says something like that to you, but the culture is not that. And so when I look at ethos driven leadership, ethos being where your values and your character intersect, what are your
Mm-hmm.
values? And how do you show up? There are four tenets in this framework, which are purpose, what motivates you, needs, what inspires you, right? Beliefs, your rooted beliefs. And some of these beliefs we ain't got no business believing. So we spend a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of time in this belief space to really understand, what do you truly believe? And influence. What or who holds you accountable? When we can
Mm-hmm.
answer those four questions, although they may seem simple, but when you can answer them, you can then articulate your ethos driven leadership mission statement. And that doesn't mean that you just jump in the elevator like your elevator pitch and you just boom, boom, boom. But if somebody were
Right.
to say to you, Monique, what's the purpose of the Black to Business podcast?
Mm-hmm.
You're not just reciting, you're feeling it. You don't have to recite because you don't have to be on recall. It is who you are. That's the difference
Mm-hmm.
between being part of your ethos and your values and something that we are presenting to be. It's the release of the presentation. You are not on stage. This is your life. This is real,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's
That is real.
no overs. It's real. And so you get to, right? You get to live. You get to be. That is why that's part of our name. Be leadership. You're not gonna hear me talk about leadership presence. We're not holograms. We ain't Tupac holograms at a concert. So I don't want to see your presence. I want to see your purpose. Right?
Mm.
I and so does anyone else that you want to come along with you. We come along with people that we feel we can see, where there's some
Yes.
transparency, the vulnerability exists, where the trust is real. A good, you know, articulator of trust, Minda Harts. We've done some work together. Hey, Minda, if you're listening, um, talks about trust a lot. Another good friend, Jim Massey, we used to work together in corporate America, wrote a book on trust. They've actually done some work together, which I love to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But trust is a factor for leadership. And that trust first starts with you. Do you trust you?
Mm.
And can you facilitate trust? And we need to understand our values and our value systems, aka our ethos, in order to make sure that we have that confidence in ourselves. You'll make a better leadership decision about where you're going, back to your original question of, well, how do we know where to show up? You'll make better decisions if you can quickly run through those questions: purpose, needs, beliefs, influence, and say,
Mm-hmm.
is this one don't feel like, this one does not feel like it's in alignment with what influences me. I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Out. Either that or I'm in, and I'm going to shift the dynamic here. I'm going to make it known that this matters to me, and I'm going to shift how this feels here as part of my leadership. Either one is a choice, but now you're in alignment with what your ethos is. And you know that when you're showing up, that if there's resistance there, you chose to meet that resistance with a shift.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I
Or you
love
could
that you lay that framework out. Yes.
hmm I'm sorry. I was just saying, or you could say, this just ain't for me and be out, right?
See, a perfect point, because when you were saying that, if someone is in a space where, okay, they listen and they're like, okay, Dawn made me have that aha moment.
Mhm.
And now I'm going back, I'm rechanging, I'm doing things differently. how do you deal with maybe that feeling of, well, I might have to conform in this space because it's just so enticing to do so, versus that strength to say, no, now I'm going to walk away. I know who I am. I'm going to start to be selfish. And I guess it's a process. Do you feel like it's a process? And how do you give that courage to walk away?
It's a process. And so why I led us through that, I also said that the ethos driven leadership statement, your mission statement, exists so
Mm-hmm.
that you can refer to it. So that when you're leading
Mm-hmm.
teams, you can talk through it, right? Every
Yeah.
company has a mission and a vision statement. Why shouldn't you? You probably articulated a
Mm-hmm.
whole bunch of mission and vision statements for all kinds of teams and everything else. What's different for you? And this is how we shift from having teams to collaborators. You see, because
Yes.
when I know what your ethos is, Monique, I can come on in and collaborate with you, get on this podcast and make
Mm-hmm.
sure that we pop off so that it can happen, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if I don't know what your mission is, I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna be talking about any and everything. You're like, girl, this ain't got nothing to do with a business or nothing else. And then, so that's it is truly part, and that is one of our taglines, but it's something we mean. Our organizational effectiveness model, leveraging the ethos driven leadership framework, is to help you go from having teams to collaborators. Let me illustrate that.
Mm-hmm.
You've been on a team with a whole bunch of people. Some of them are hitting all the shots and doing all the things, and then you got the ones that are just on the bench, and that's just what they do, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
you have collaborators, folks that are like, I mean, I might not have the best shot, but I'm gonna make sure that these orange slices are ready. The water is cold. I'm gonna be cheering. I'm in it. I'm watching everything that's going on. I'm a motivator, even from the bench. That's a collaborator,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I like that.
Even if. And so you gotta let people know what you believe so they can say, you know what, girl, me too. I thought this was crazy too. And I think we should make a whole new policy. No meetings before 9:30. I think we should. We should go from, 15-minute breaks in between meetings so that we're not back to back to back. We should go with meetings cut off on Fridays at noon. We should go. Believe it
Mm-hmm.
or not, if you can articulate what's happening in your mind, other people are like, me too. And
Yeah.
if you join yourself a leader, then leaders speak. They articulate what they believe. And when they do, people hear it and figure out, how do we get aligned with this? Leadership is not about dictating, it's about availing the discernment and positioning the choice and giving a pathway as to how we can change it. That is culture shifting. That's behavior shifting. But if you hold it to yourself, then who knew? Everybody thought you were fine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy thought I was fine. He said, send me this text and said, send me these slides. Because I didn't say anything different.
Right.
Right? It's a shared accountability, but what you don't share, no one else can be in accountability with
Mm-hmm. That is true. And speaking of teams, and just going back to what you were mentioning earlier, is all the things how we are taught that, or we think that how what I produce is I should also do it all. And so when you have this team and this new perspective, there is that delegation aspect of things. So how do you have that healthy delegation, and what does it look like, and how does this so essential for growth in business owners to go from that so they don't feel like they have to do it all?
you. As you ascend in leadership, capacity is key. And
Mm-hmm.
capacity is not about stacking back to back to back to back. It's about leaving some room, some space, right? Some white space on the paper so that when things are happening, you have space, room to pivot and move around, right? As you ascend,
Mm-hmm.
capacity is key. And it's also about having the capacity to see beyond the silo, right? You got to know who to tap in. Who else? As you succeed, you also need to have a succession plan, which means who got next. And you can't see who's got next
Mm-hmm.
if you're constantly in the weeds. So here's a couple things, folks, and I know that some of us are going to go, girl, what? First off, you have no business doing all the things. Can't nobody do all or nothing. Do you want the pilot on your plane flying the plane and serving you the drinks and coming through and picking up the cups? I mean, there's autopilot. He can put on the autopilot and come on back there. It's possible. But do you want that? And so here's the thing. And he's got the capability to do it. If he could fly a plane, he could hand out Coke and a split of champagne. Like, it's possible. But everything that's possible is not pliable. It's not what should happen. It's not plausible. It's not what should happen. So stop thinking that all of it is yours. First and foremost, you're a leader, so you should have a team. So hand some of that stuff off. And here's the other piece of release for health for all of us. Just because you're good at it doesn't mean that you should do it. We've got good at a lot of things. Good at faking it. Good at staying up all night and being on every email, coming in, staying late. You are training people that is how you want to show up. Don't nobody say nothing to old girl who just comes in at 9:05, leaves at 3:05. Don't nobody ask no questions. Nobody says, girl, where you going? None of that. And you don't have to explain your standards. If your standard is, I'm here when I'm here, I'm not when I'm not. I answer calls Monday through Friday, you got me, right? You don't have to explain it. You can set the standard, you ain't got to explain it. But then you got to pull through and show up as you say you were. I've carried multiple cell phones most of my corporate career. Folks got to know, you can call me at 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, but I'll get the message and I'm gonna come back to you. You could call me on Friday afternoon through Sunday, and maybe or maybe not. And if you are a person who constantly goes, then use the delayed send so that they can't see it, so that you create a capacity to not have to always be on. Do delayed send so that it goes out on the standard work hours, so you protect your time, right? Capacity is not about putting more in. It's about being selective. It's about being elite. I do these things. You go do these things. We'll both be best at what we do. I'll champion you for doing the best you do. You collaborate with me to help me do the best I do, and everybody moves forward. And it's okay to let it go. Girl, I know Oprah says she signed all her checks. I don't know if she still signed all her checks or not.
I saw that.
Right. And if she does, then she's not doing something else, right? And she may. But that means while I'm signing these checks, I'm paying attention to where every comma and decimal is on this good check. What I'm not going to do is set up these lights so that I can get the best daytime Emmy Award for best lighting on my set. That's somebody else's job. I ain't doing that part. Right? So let's just kind of, and I know I'm using kind of silly examples, but it's true. You gotta let something go, because if your hands are always clenched like this, no one knows where to give. You have no hands to lift. You have no hands to hold. You have no hands to collaborate. You've got to release something. And if you don't rest, you won't be here. Burnout is real. And it is real. So whether you conk out, whether they put you out, we have to allow for ourselves to say, I'm only given this much time, this much space. Protect your time and space. Boundaries are real. Boundaries are practice. Boundaries are real. That is part of building that capacity, and that is part of making sure that you can have that discernment around how you're going to use your time and how you're showing up.
I'm so glad that you mentioned boundaries because we've been given all the tools today to become selfish, to also learn how to become selfish as a leader for the best self interest as well. So, how do you then get those people around you to recognize these boundaries? And
Mhm.
also, maybe dealing with sometimes people might not see it, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes your boundaries are in what you say, and sometimes they're in what you don't say. And let me
Mm-hmm.
demonstrate both, right? Some of
Okay.
them are, especially for some of us, if you have an AE or if you have a partner or kids, I have to articulate when I'm at home. The room that I'm in, we call it the blue room. This is my office. Most of my family doesn't come in here without an invitation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because they can. They don't even have a door. It's just it's a. But they can come in here, but they respect the fact that that's her space. This is where she's cluing in, and if she's in here, I'm not going to really bother her until she come out. Right? It's like an invisible boundary.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to set that practice, right? And so that's one way. Another way is a boundary that you self talk, right? So I don't know what time you get up in the morning. I tend to be an early riser, but my first 15 minutes, I ain't talking to nobody. I ain't plugging into nothing. I ain't picking up no phones. And guess what? I don't say nothing to nobody. I just lay there
Mm-hmm.
for 15 minutes in my silence and I do a self check.
I love
How am
it.
I feeling today? What's going on for me? And I'm not going to talk about it. Why? Because I don't have to. It's my practice. It's my boundary. Because if I talk about it, I don't want to be on nobody's timer. Is it this 15 minutes you really up? Is it that? When my foot hits the ground and I say good morning, then we on. Right? So,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where it's like it's in your actions, right? And it's in the gift and the
You're right.
permission that you give yourself, right? I have a dog that I love and I work from home, but I have a daily practice of walking, taking him walking because his life depends on me. But I don't have a choice. Every day I have to check in and remind myself that I'm human,
Mm-hmm.
that he's living because we have to get up and go move and go outside. We have to. I have to remember that I have to water him and feed him and go outside. But in doing so, I'm also remembering that I too am connecting with the elements outside and the fact that I'm part of this earth. It is part of the reason why one of our services, and it's tongue in cheek, but it's called the living room, and it's a play on
Mm.
words. It's making
I love
room to live. They're 15-minute coaching bursts where I get on the phone and this is how you book your appointment. It's a 15-minute appointment, and in there you have a selection. Would you like to go fill up your water bottle? Go for a walk? Mini yoga? Just reflect. And it's funny that the practice of it really came out of, again, with this idea of selfishness. I had a business coach, so I'm a coach who's coached. I have a business coach that said, I need you to build a service that allows you to remember your own humanity. So,
it.
funny enough, as I'm coaching and doing these 15-minute sessions, I'm also getting my water. I'm in partnership and accountability with you, but I'm also connecting to my own humanity. I'm taking a
Mm-hmm.
walk with you, but I'm also moving my body. I'm sitting in
That's
reflection and
good.
mindfulness with you, but I'm also checking into my own mindfulness. We can create boundaries in practice of how we articulate our days and structure our days. And it can even happen in your products and services. I'm proof of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's boundary setting.
Yeah. Mm. Great tools. And that's a perfect segue into the work that you are doing. I know you kind of mentioned it, well, have mentioned it throughout the conversation, but I would love it if you kind of could just make it full circle. What are the ways that you are helping business owners make sure they're selfish, shift their mindset and their leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm partnering with businesses and leaders within those businesses, teams within those businesses to design a leadership practice that includes your humanity and your well-being. We do this through one-to-one coaching, cohort-based coaching, and organizational effectiveness advisory services, consulting and advisory services. What does that mean? That means, do you need a coach? Do you have one? Someone that's checking in on you, helping you see where you are and define or redefine your leadership identity. Once that's happening, does your team know who you are and what's important to you and the organization? Then do we have the structures, practices, and policies enacted to realize these things? These can be team retreats, these can be ongoing engagements, but we design and curate per what's happening for you, right? We're not off the shelf. Yes, we have frameworks, we have practices that are in place, but we are truly one that comes in to curate and work with you and your organization to understand that. Now, I want to also raise that we did say mental health and wellness. I am not a clinical practitioner, but we partner with them because coaching and therapy are uniquely different. And to hold ourselves accountable to best practices for health and wellness in the workplace, we partner with and structuring all of our engagements with clinical practitioners as well as with coaches and consultants. And we bring that into the forefront for you. So whether it's the microburst coaching with the living room sessions, being your dedicated coach, or working through team dynamics, we can work with you either in acute ways like retreats or in strategic ways over time to build organizational effectiveness.
I love that. And Dawn, what would you say are some of the benefits of working with a professional like yourself versus trying to do this on your own?
I mean, you've been on your own. You've been on your
Mm-hmm.
own and you've gotten where you've gotten. But we tend to be so comfortable with thinking about coaches in any sport that we play. You didn't just go out there and just start playing a game, right? There was a coach, there was a team.
Mm-hmm.
We are meant to be in community, right? We are meant to have spaces to unpack and to build and reflect. And so coaching is a game changer that for a lot of us, especially for Black folks, it's a newer concept, right? If you were coached, and I'm old enough to say this, back in the day, if you were designated to coaches because you did something wrong, or that you were such an executive that it was reserved for an executive, and now that dynamic is changing, right? Coaching is one of the fastest growing industries, and I don't say that only from a monetary standpoint, but I do say that because we as humans are shifting. When we went through COVID, when we went through, the world went through that, right? When we see what's happening in the world, what was raised for us was a reckoning that we don't get to split the atom. Who you are at work is who you are at home, is who you are out with your friends. It's the same you, whether you're being performative or not, it's the same you. But we need to make sure that we have that system in place. And what a coach isn't is not a therapist. A coach leads you to discernment. A therapist will work on trauma. A coach can recognize that trauma has happened and refer you out. And if you have coaches that are not referring you out on trauma, then we need to talk about that. But and they can work in concert together to give you the practices and the structures to be able to show up and be fully healthy, right? It's a lot to be a leader. And you do need someone to be able to look at you and see you. Stop looking at the organization. Stop looking outward for everyone else in the world to finally say, oh, girl, I feel seen. Make being seen a practice for you. Make it regular, normal for you. I have a therapist. I have coaches. I have family members. I have my kitchen table. I have my family. And they're all part of the ecosystem that helps Dawn show up and be Dawn.
That's right. And where can people find, connect with you to partake in the services, but also support as well.
Yeah, you can find us at BeLeadership.community. And again, that's BeLeadership. So
Love it.
BE and leadership, all one word, dot community. That's online. I'm on LinkedIn and IG. It's BeLeadership underscore community. But on LinkedIn, you'll know it's me, both BeLeadership or Dawn Christian. I am not always on there, but I'm very active there. Not always anywhere, y'all. Neither should you. But those are the ways you can reach out and find me. And then I would love if you would just kind of engage with us on my TED Talk, Breaking Up with Busyness. If I have no other gift to give, it is the word and the message, and realizing that we are in a relationship that we have a choice to break up with when it comes to busyness. So TEDx, LinkedIn, IG, BeLeadership underscore community.
Perfect. And my final question is, what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
Ooh, girl. It means freedom. It means purpose. It means community. And it means worth, not value. And I say worth because I think our centering as humans is that you are worth every bit of your vision as a business owner. You are worth all the highs, the the struggles that you've gone through. It's worth it because it's your vision. So that's where I'm coming at it with worth, and you are bringing the value. No one can ever pay you your worth, but you are bringing the value.
So powerful. This entire conversation has been amazing. And thank you so much for showing up, doing the work you do, and then also showing up and, giving and pouring into our community. So thank you so much for being on the podcast, Dawn.
It was an honor, Monique. You call, I'm showing up. I'm glad that I was able to come and be here in this community, and I am looking forward to staying part of the community. Thank you for the work you're doing.
You're welcome. And for everyone listening, until next time. This conversation with Dawn reminded us that being selfish is not a flaw, nor is it a bad thing. It's a form of leadership. For us as Black entrepreneurs, the pressure to always give and grind can feel like the only way to succeed, but it often leaves us depleted. Dawn showed us that prioritizing yourself is the very thing that allows your business, your team, and your vision to flourish. 3 takeaways to keep with you. Selfishness means knowing your purpose and choosing alignment over endless productivity. Boundaries are leadership tools, not excuses. Protecting your well-being is the foundation for sustainable growth. For more resources from this episode, head over to blacktobusiness.com/271. And if this message hit home, share it with another entrepreneur who needs to hear that being selfish might just save their business. I'm so glad that you're a part of the Black to Business family. Every time you tune in, you're showing your commitment to your growth and pushing our culture forward in powerful ways. So keep building boldly and keep pushing the culture forward. Later.